ISO IEC 17025 2017 Awareness Library. Clause 6.3 Facilities and Environmental Conditions, with examples, common nonconformances, and awareness tips. Welcome to this ISO IEC 17025 Awareness Information Session. This session explains Clause 6.3 Facilities and Environmental Conditions. Disclaimer: this content is shared for general information and awareness only. It is not training. It is not preparation for accreditation. It is not assessor guidance. This session is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or delivered on behalf of any accreditation body. For official accreditation matters, laboratories must engage directly with the relevant accreditation body. Clause 6.3 requires laboratory facilities and environmental conditions to be suitable for laboratory activities. These facilities and conditions must not negatively affect the validity of results. The standard highlights that influences such as temperature, humidity, dust, vibration, sound, radiation, electrical supply, or microbial contamination may affect results. Laboratories must be aware of these influences where they are relevant to their work. The standard requires laboratories to document the requirements for facilities and environmental conditions. This documentation describes the conditions needed to support laboratory activities. Documented requirements help ensure consistency and shared understanding within the laboratory. Monitoring, control, and recording. Where environmental conditions can influence the validity of results, the laboratory must monitor, control, and record those conditions. Monitoring is done according to relevant specifications, methods, or procedures. Recording environmental conditions provides evidence that these conditions were considered during laboratory activities. Examples of environmental monitoring. Illustrative examples only. Examples of environmental monitoring may include monitoring temperature in areas where sensitive measurements are performed. In some laboratories, humidity may be monitored where moisture could influence results. Dust may be observed or controlled in laboratories working with powders or particulate samples. Vibration may be considered where balances or sensitive instruments are used. Electrical supply stability may be monitored where power fluctuations could affect equipment performance. These examples are shared for awareness only. Each laboratory decides which environmental conditions are relevant to its own activities. Clause 6.3 also requires laboratories to implement measures to control facilities. This includes controlling access to areas that affect laboratory activities. It also includes preventing contamination, interference, or other adverse influences. Where necessary, laboratories must ensure effective separation between areas with incompatible activities. When laboratory activities are performed outside the laboratory's permanent facilities, the same requirements apply. This includes work performed at customer sites, temporary facilities, or mobile laboratories. The laboratory must ensure that facilities and environmental conditions remain suitable for the activities performed. Common nonconformances related to Clause 6.3. These are awareness examples only. During assessments, some common nonconformances related to Clause 6.3 may be observed. These may include a lack of documented environmental requirements. Another example may be environmental conditions being monitored but not recorded. In some cases, monitoring records exist, but there is no evidence that the results are reviewed. Nonconformances may also arise where laboratory areas are not properly separated, leading to possible contamination or interference. These examples are shared to raise awareness and support proactive management. The key message of Clause 6.3 is that laboratory facilities and environmental conditions must support valid results. Laboratories must identify relevant environmental conditions, document requirements, and monitor and control those conditions where they influence results. This helps maintain confidence in laboratory activities and results. Our awareness tips. Personal good practice. A useful awareness tip is to remember that everything has limits. Environmental conditions are not unlimited, and laboratories should be aware of what conditions are acceptable for their activities. Another good practice is to use an official form to monitor environmental conditions within the facility. Such a form may include limits for relevant conditions. It is important to understand where these limits come from, such as methods, equipment specifications, standards, or experience. Laboratories should also consider why these limits are suitable for their specific facility and scope of work. These points are shared as our awareness and our good practice, not as requirements. Before we close, it is important to note that this session brought to you by Lula Laboratories and is intended for awareness and information purposes only. Laboratories remain responsible for developing, implementing, and maintaining their own quality management systems. If your laboratory requires independent professional support with quality management system development, gap analysis, ISO IEC 17025 internal audits, or corrective actions, you may contact us for further information and quotation. Inquiries can be directed to info@lalaboratory.co.ca. Our contact details are displayed at the bottom of each slide. Any such engagements are managed independently and are not affiliated with, endorsed by, or performed on behalf of any accreditation body. This concludes the ISO IEC 17025 Awareness Information Session on Clause 6.3, Facilities and Environmental Conditions. This session forms part of our ISO IEC 17025 Awareness Library. This content is provided for awareness and information purposes only. For full requirements and accreditation decisions, laboratories must refer to the ISO IEC 17025 standard and engage directly with the relevant accreditation body.